Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is the Hour of Politics, always with me, Anthony Sia, your host. Welcome and welcome to today's edition of the Hour of Politics. I have a guest today. He is a robust political actor from the Unity Party. To be specific, he is one of the executive members of the Unity Party USA, and we will also add he is one of JMB top surrogates. The man, George Preston Lobbo, is here from the Draft Informative Show that I happen to be a member of as well, even though some of the Unity Party folks don't like me that much. But it's okay. We are fighting from Liberia for Liberia from different direction. Mr. Preston Lobbo, it's good to have you. Welcome. This is home.
Thank you very much, Mr. C. It's good to be back on Radio Length. It's good to be here, especially focus on Liberia. This is the platform that have given me the opportunity on many occasions to come here and make the case, whether it's through serving as a panelist or through debates, doing regular engagements. I'm always welcome here, and I look forward to a fruitful conversation this morning.
Thank you. And you know, George, it's always good to have you. So, folks, today is an exclusive discussion with Unity Party USA Executive George Preston Lobbo. In today's discussion, we'll be looking at some specific areas, and then there will be questions in so many areas as well. The U.S. sanction and President George manner we are handling of it all. George will respond. Also, Liberians' reaction and the suspended Minister McGill's letter. And just before we could come live, we also received a letter from Seaman Sereno Seaford, the Solicitor General. In my opinion, they are whining. Seems to be they are going down. George will respond whether or not they are even implicating their government more, or they are saying the truth. We don't know yet. Also, the unprecedented lobbying efforts of the CDC government. The CDC government had signed 16 contracts to lobby the U.S. government with 18 different firms. This is unprecedented. We have never seen this before. What is the CDC up to here? George will respond. And finally, the opposition political parties, what is the CDC in 2023? George is a member of one of the political parties, the biggest one, they say, by the way, of Liberia. That is the opposition United Party. That's Joseph Yamambwaka is the stand-up bearer. He's the constitutional stand-up bearer, I should say. And the United Party has just had his newly elected officer sworn in. Seems to be they are ready. How ready are they? George will tell us. Again, Mr. Lobo, it's good to have you. How's family? How is Phoenix, Arizona? That place is always hot.
Mr. C, as you know, the human body has a way to adjusting and adapting to everywhere you stay. I've been in Phoenix for over 14 years now. It's a wonderful place. It's a beautiful city. Family-wise, you know, things have been very, very good. I want to use this medium to thank all of you who stood by me, who supported me during the most difficult period of my life, especially during the bereavement period of the passing of my mother. I want to say thank you. So, I mean, you notice I kind of been away for a little while when it comes to discussing national issues, but I intend to return to the scene because it seems like a lot of people have been dancing. When they say when the cat is not around, it's like a holiday in the mouse town, and they run all around the place. So I think it's need for us to come back and restore some order to the public discourse, and that is why we are returning, and we are prepared to engage and continue the fight.
Thank you, and thank you so much. Let us get to it, George. You know, what has been on Liberians' mind and in the news of politics is the issue of sanction. These sanctions came down so hard on officials of the CDC government. And we want to hear from you. Is this something that you can say that, well, you were not surprised or not surprised that these sanctions came the way they landed?
Mr. C, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for this question. As a Liberian, first, as a member of the opposition, especially the Unity Party, We were not surprised, Mr. C, given where we took Liberia from in 2006. We understood the enormous amount of challenges that we had to undergo. We knew there were programs we had to enroll in. We had to establish anti-graft institutions, integrity institutions, some of those institutions that enable us to be able to seek debt waiver of $4.9 billion. Not only that, we were able to enroll Liberia through so many different programs, programs that enhance our ability to be accountable, programs that enhance our ability to be transparent. That is why on the continent of Africa, Liberia was the only country under the Unity Party government that established an open budget system. Not only that, to support our efforts in being transparent and more open to the public, Mr. C, we followed that up with creating the Freedom Information Act, which allow any Liberian to seek public information and it should be made available to you. So that itself was an act of promoting transparency and enhancing accountability. So we knew fully well that for a government that came to power, and the president will be the first man who will declare his asset, but will place a gag order on it, will say he cannot make it public because he wants to protect his family. And as far as we are concerned from our sources, Mr. C, we can now confirm that none of these other officials ever declare assets, because if they did by this particular point in time, there's no way the LACC would not have been prosecuting every single person. I mean, Jefferson Koji didn't have to declare his asset. He never had a job in his life. Today, we know where Major Koji owned down 18th Street. Natana Mage could barely afford to pay his rent when he was staying with Jimama Wolo Koli. Roland Duo put him out because he could not pay his rent there. So if Mage had declared his asset, what did Mage use as collateral? So, Mr. C, for us, when we saw the CDC government officials amassing wealth at this accelerated rate, we knew that there were going to be at some point in time where people were going to hold them accountable, especially those institutions we established. What the guys did was all the rules, all the check and balance system we had, they took off all the guardrail. For example, the code of conduct. The first thing they did was to attack it, use it as toilet paper. They threw it in the garbage can. PPCC, they crippled it. The LACC, they crippled it. All the institutions we established. So there was a bad time, Mr. C. There were countries who stood with us during our difficult period, who contributed to building some of those institutions, who sent technocrats to help us. Those people were not going to sit by for too long and allow people to just continue to abuse what they've already fought hard to build. Knowing the history of Liberia, especially Mr. C, with its dark past, we killed 13 people for the act of corruption. You remember that? Those were people's father, brothers, sons that were killed on the pole. To see a government that will come back to take us right back to the same old thing. So, Mr. C, we knew it just a matter of time. You saw the warning from the United Nations asking the CDC to be accountable. You saw the letter from the 9 ambassadors. You saw it from the IMF recommendations that our government must set realistic budget, that our government must be accountable, our government must cut down this massive wasteful spending. So we saw all these things. For us, we think that it was too late. We expected these sanctions in the first 2 years, because the 6 months that President Weah was in power and broke down Hilo's houses to build mansions, we thought our partners would have gotten on their back to hold them accountable, but never too late. We are grateful that those sanctions came in. Hopefully now they will begin to serve as a lesson learned for other people. And we look forward to more of these sanctions.
What citizens and folks who are in this government's corner saying right now is, whoa, so this is about corruption for which officials of the CDC government are being sanctioned by the U.S. government. Well, the very U.S. government was right here. And we heard about corruption in so many areas, and there were no sanctions. In fact, Thomas Greenfield was here as ambassador. She came here and she spoke rebuking the CDC government, down on bank scheme. These people that are around when the very corruption was like center place in the United Party administration. They think the U.S. is selective. Do they have a point here?
Mr. C, it is out of ignorance they will make those statements, because the very first thing, the United States government had a program. The program has minimum benchmark that a country must meet to be able to qualify. Liberia was in that program. The Unity Party government was able to qualify Liberia meeting all those benchmarks. And one of those benchmarks was the issue of corruption. Look, Mr. C, let me say this to you. Here in the great United States, where there's systems, there's accountability, there will be people who will always take shortcut. There will be people who will always have nefarious dealing. We understand those things were happening. In the Unity Party government, I will never say, Mr. C, there was no corruption. No. There were no misapplication of funds. No, that's not true. But the thing about it, Mr. C, let's take a stroll through the Unity Party government. Let's go to the GAC.
So, George, why we didn't see sanction? If you are saying that you cannot say there were no corruption in default, that is to say, well, there were corruption. You are admitting that there were instances of corruption, but there were no sanctions. So,
but here's what the U.S. government look at. What is the administration doing to make sure that those accused or those involved in an act of corruption being held accountable? What was done? The U.S. government has a history where we were even trying to bring back, if you recall, one of our own from the airport.
Trying?
Oh, you know that what happened. Now
I know, but you use the word trying. I mean,
yeah, when I say trying, Mr. C, because you can only pursue a foreign government to extradite somebody. That is an act of trying. Until it was successful, it is an act of trying. But let's look at what we did home on the domestic front on the issue of corruption. Okay. We were the only government, Mr. C. A certain speaker of the first branch of government was removed and brought to court for corruption. Our party chairman, Vani Sherman, was being chairman. So again, Mr. C, the very first thing in the fight of corruption, right? The people want to see, is this government emboldening, strengthening, supporting corruption? Or is this government taking decisive steps towards confronting the problem hands-on? What did we do when it came to Matilda Parker at the Freeport? What did we do when it came to GAC? What did we do when it came to Lawrence Boblet? Mr. C, we can go on. The Abu Kamara paying restitution. So many other government officials being held accountable, dismissed from government. Look, again, what did we do? We sent to Congress an act establishing the fast-track court to prosecute people accused of corruption and financial crimes. Sadly for us, those laws were done in the legislature.
We can debate how sincere and how hard did the Unity Party actually fight, right? Because Ellen said, well, we did not win the war. Ellen, we also heard, this is the popular saying, that she took responsibilities, all right, for some of the things that happened. Also, we can talk about Bropler being called back and these other people being, we don't know of anybody who faced severe persecution. And in fact, the Unity Party on its watch, that was when the board of directors of NOCA, a lot of themselves in violations of the act creating the NOCA, a lot of themselves extra burdens, that was a violation. Ellen Johnson said the Unity Party administration did not penalize them until Weah came, and then there was a report against that, and they said Amara Connor, Christina Tai, and these people said, well, we'll give the money back. Unity Party did not do anything. So I'm saying this, that Unity Party carry on. There was zero corruption in the Unity Party administration. There was not a good fight at all.
Okay, so Mr. Say, let me correct something, and I want you to follow on this for your audience sake. Just so you know, the head of the board of directors for NOCA was Clemency Ure. He was being prosecuted for NOCA. Okay. While we were in power. It's because our own, it was not all out there, but he was being prosecuted for what happened at NOCA. Yes, it is true that Madam Salif took responsibility for what happened at NOCA, because at the end of the day, she is the manager of the whole country. She's in charge. But we must not forget, NOCA is initial form. There were people, the Israel Akinsaya today, who is in government now, was dismissed from NOCA, the first managing directors for NOCA. We can go on and on. Mr. C, I will tell you what the Unity Party did to fight corruption. There is no government. We are not making comparison that it was not wrong, but I will tell you, Mr. C, what we did to fight corruption, to ensure that public resources were reaching our people, cannot be compared to none. And one thing the CDC did, we expected that where we fell short, let's say, Mr. C, we have scored 60. Our expectation was that the CDC now would have taken us to 80. Sadly for us, it has taken us back to 10. And on the basis of that, it warrants sanction. Because you know what? We brought it to 60. We qualified Liberia. Mr. C, the IMF did not have an office in Monrovia. But because of what we were doing, are you aware that the IMF had an office of Mamba Point? And we were engaged in the war. We restored Liberia's credibility once again. Access, we agreed and allowed the country and created the ability to borrow once again. Since the war, Mr. C, we could not. You live in America. When you have bad credit, no one loan you money. We fixed Liberia credit. And we could not just fix Liberia credit by doing more and being bad. So again, I will say this, on any given day, while it is true there were issues within our government, which I'm not going to say that we were all sins, but Mr. C, on any given day, you heard the United Nations, you read the letters from our ambassadors. They said, put the money back. For 12 years, we did not see the Unity Party government take money from our international partners' coffers. For 12 years, we did not see a letter from the United Nations saying that the UP government was taking funding for projects and we could not properly account for it. But we saw that with the CDC. For the 12 years, Mr. Sie, we qualified Liberia for the MCC Compact Grant and secured $257 million. We could not have done that if we were not fighting corruption and ensuring that we're promoting transparency and accountability. And that is why today we make this argument when it comes to the debate, that on any given day, what we did, we justify our actions. We will make sure that we correct the wrong things that we didn't do better, but we improve on what we did. Sadly for us, we are reverting on all the gains we made. So coming back against that, we're going to be having to start from 2006. Sadly for us, we don't know how far back we'll go because at this risk, President Weah is running the country in reverse. We probably will be back maybe in the 1990 or 1995 status because at this particular point in time, it seems that all the institutions are dead and parallel.
Thank you, George. And I'm happy that you said, well, you cannot say there wasn't any corruption or there were no corruption. And one of which is the executive mansion. And I think you and myself agree, the Unity Party was a colossal failure. For 12 years, the executive mansion could not be renovated, even though there was so much money put into the budget to get this project done. It could not be done. They were recasting the budget, shifting the money to different priorities. And today, here we are. So I'm glad that you have acknowledged that. Let's make progress here.
Before we make progress, let me correct another thing you said. There were money being allotted in the budget and will be shifted based on priority. Mr. Say, you have to understand again, I will be very clear on the records. Yes, indeed, the executive mansion renovation is one of those things that I think government should have been fully involved. But having said that, Mr. C, the government awarded contract to the first company. I think it's important that we tell people what happened. We awarded the first contract to a company from China that came in to do a piece of job for, but instead created more mess than what they were supposed to fix. So sadly for us, it did not meet the standard.
So you made a poor choice then. You made a poor choice then, Josh. You made a poor choice.
Mr. C, let me finish now. At the end of the day, as a government, you take responsibility. But when you want to speak in terms of what have happened, I think it is important that we provide all the facts. We cannot drive one side of the narrative. Let's explain everything that transpired. We brought people to fix the camo. They came into our house. They looted our fan. They looted the floor mat. They looted the tire on the wall. So at the end of the day now, it turned into a serious problem. So on the basis of that, we continue to find people. So, Mr. C, I've always spoken on it. For us, we do not shy away from it. But here's one thing I think we need to, at this particular point in time. Mr. C, it's 14 months to an election. I strongly believe anybody in this 21st century now who will still want to prosecute the Unity Party for its 12 years. I think the Unity Party 12 years was litigated in 2017. And I think the CDC government have all the constitutional authority given to them to have been able to ensure that where they felt that the UP went wrong, to hold the Unity Party accountable. Sadly for us, in 14 months to go at this particular point in time, we want to now hear what was done differently and how it was done to make it better than it was under the Unity Party. And that is what we are now getting. And those are some of the things we look forward to talking about now.
Thank you, George. That is a fair point there. The CDC has the gavel in its hand to really look into the books and see where Unity Party went wrong and hold the Unity Party accountable. But how will the CDC, when President George Weah rated Ellen Johnson said it with 80%? Let me fit there, George. Weah's handling of the sanctions. What is your take? Some people are saying, well, dismissal would have done it. I don't know what difference would dismissal make. What is your take?
First and foremost, Mr. C, here's my take on the sanction. President Weah has been very cautious with his actions. As you know, that corruption itself has been one of the fundamental problems that brought this country down on its knees. We begin the show stating what happened in 1980, where 13 men were put on a pole accused of corruption. Sadly for us, I think any government, any serious president, that is why even our own UP government, when people were accused, Madam Sally relieved them of their duties. President Weah has been very cautious. He has not taken it serious. And the fact of the matter that the U.S. government will go as far as saying that these individuals will list what they've been involved in. I think a serious-minded president who came to fight corruption, who cares genuinely about his people, who take his job serious, who cares about his own legacy and reputation, would not at this particular point in time be seen with McGill or any one of them. President Weah would have at least relieved them of the duty. The reason why we believe that suspension is more of a slap on the wrist, we have to look at the government history of suspension, Mr. C. This government is known for suspending people and reappointing them to different positions, suspending people and bringing them back once the noise quiet down. So we know that President Weah don't take things serious. But at this particular point, how can McGill be suspended, Mr. C? I think a day or two ago, McGill was in Banga with EPS protection, with government vehicles. When you are suspended from a job, Mr. C, most jobs, most companies, you do not even have access to the building if you are under investigation. Sadly for us in Liberia, when President Weah suspend you, you say enjoy everything from the government. So for me, I think it's a joke. President Weah is a mere bluff. He has no desire. He has no willingness. And like I said yesterday, and I'll continue to say, President George Weah is going to be leading a ticket come 2023. And that ticket now will be defined as the Coalition for the Development of Corruption in Liberia, the CDC. And that is the ticket President Weah will be leading. And that is the party will be contesting again. So we know that is why we see what action he's taking when it comes to corruption.
Let's look at Liberians' reactions to the sanctions, the suspensions, and what you just said of late, McGill even writing a communication to the president telling him that, hey, all these things are just allegations. You can't just suspend me on mere allegation. I want to be subjected to the rule of law. And on top of that, Sema Serena Cephas wrote the longest letter I've ever seen in my life, blaming Musa Dean for him making the list. And his relying is a communication that got leaked and was, purportedly sent to the U.S. ambassador, signed by Musa Dean, complaining that he, Serena Cephas, is a bad apple in our country. If you look at all that, George, what goes through your mind? Is this deeper than what we see?
Mr. C, I think it's the tip of the iceberg. For me, I do not expect much under this government. You know, Mr. C, it is only recently that the drought in California, that people are now discovering bodies that were put in drums 40, 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I can assure you, there's a lot that Liberians will uncover when the CDC is gone. I can tell you that for sure. We must not forget the Minister of Justice is on record for saying he cares less where the government get money from, even if it's from the cartels in Mexico. President Weah should go there and take money. You know that very well.
Yes, that was, but even it comes from the devil.
Thank God. I'm not going as far as the devil. I think the cartel, they are not aware to compared to the devil. So at least you've been very direct. But let me just say this, Mr. C. We must not forget, in the first 6 months of this administration, one of the largest corruption scandal involving the $800,000 at the National Housing Authority with Duana Sion, where we heard that famous tape. We know who the players were. Was the Minister of Justice not there? He is part of it. So the Justice Ministry under the CDC government have been transformed to the Ministry of Injustice. That is very, very clear. So for me, Musa Dean and Serena Cephas, I think it's a love-making thing. At the end of the day, it's men flexing their muscles. But I strongly believe, Mr. C, it is deeper than what we think. Because let me say this, Mr. C. There's no way that a government that presides over a budget worth $600 million, yet then less than 50% of all allotments reach the various entities, but those budgets are absorbed on a yearly basis, Mr. C. That is serious corruption that we must investigate. We need to investigate from every single transaction done by this government. And I can assure them, except God don't give us, some of us, our wishes, but if we do, there will be no stone left unturned, because I can assure the CDC government officials that our responsibility will be to find every single stone that was buried, and we will do that. I can assure you, don't worry, this is deeper than you think.
Josh, you are a big critic of how our religious leaders, our pastors conduct themselves. I'm sure you might have seen a video of them laying hands on McGill, praying for him because he's been sanctioned by the U.S. government. I'm curious, what does George Lobbo have to say about that?
Mr. C, you don't want pastors to go pray against me, because I'm not a favorite fan of many pastors because of my stand. I strongly believe that in our efforts to fight corruption, if we believe, like it has been proven, that corruption is systemic in our country, and the way we can be able to begin the process of fighting corruption is to go after places of worship, because many of our people profess to be Christians. And as far as I'm concerned, church leaders, community church leaders, back in the days, they were great community leaders. So if the churches our people go to worship, their pastors are fake, their pastors are corrupt, their pastors are thieves, their pastors are only in this business for cajoling people, they are only in this business for succumbing people. And therefore, we have to begin. We need serious church reform. And I'm not afraid to say it. And I think we need to. Because you know what? It is these churches that gave these corrupt government officials Father of the Year, Mother of the Year. That itself is telling them that the offering you get from stealing, you need to increase it. So I'm not surprised. But again, as a Kissy man, Mr. C, we the Kissy people, we are still struggling, having dealt with the loss of our brother Thomas Father, who were baptized by over 150 men of God. I think Thomas Father is still trying to recoup some of his refund from those fake pastors. But I don't see it to be anything. That just speaks to the church we have in Liberia. The church don't speak on serious.
I know you will continue. Now, when it was he baptized, he was anointed.
Mr. C,
he was anointed with oil, holy oil.
Mr. C, look, I will say this again. I mean, the fake pastors in our society give me reason to believe that God indeed is an honest guy, is a just guy, and he's a patient-minded God. Because I wish the Lord could pick up these corrupt pastors one by one every day. There's no reason for that.
Does it mean that our religious leaders are not interested in fighting the big elephant in the room, this corruption? I'm not sure if they are of any help in any shape. It may not be all of them, but it could be most of them.
Mr. C, I'm not afraid to say it. I'll tell you today. Over 50% of our pastors and our religious leaders are notoriously corrupt. They are only in this business for handout. They are in this business for good dressing and feeding off of people, exploiting the desperation of our people, hereby preaching salvation to them. Most of these guys are not in it because they truly want to win souls for the kingdom. Who wants to win souls for the kingdom but hail and celebrate thieves? Isn't it part of the 10 commandments that thou shalt not steal? Thou shalt not cover thy neighbor goose? Isn't it in the 10 commandments? So what are you talking about? And they tell us that God is an honest God, Mr. C. Look, including, look, Mr. C. You see the pastors show up, they say, can you imagine men of God telling us that when we condemn the president, when we criticize the president, that the Lord will strike us, we'll die because we're holding our leader accountable, that we point out the ills and poor performance, the bad dealings of President Weah, who himself is another fake pastor. This is the only pastor in the 21st century who can preach an entire sermon for 1 hour, yet they can quote one Bible voice. How pathetic can the country be with such a joke?
And George, if I may join in here, the Bible is an interesting book. I really love that book. The good thing about the Bible, it can be used, and people who are, mischievous can use the Bible to defend just about anything. This very Bible says, hey, an open rebuke is better than a hidden love, right? And then the same Bible comes and say, well, the pastor will say, touch no man anointed and do my prophet no harm. Because these people, so we need to rebuke the pastors for not being better representation in this fight, for corruption. We're fighting against corruption, and this is what they are doing. People who have been accused of corruption, they are laying hands on them without getting to know what the facts are. That is profound. And I think you were talking about Bishop Weah, right, who threatened the entire nation for criticizing somebody the nation elected. And when it is our constitutional responsibility to hold President Weah accountable, he pivots to the Bible. That is profound, George. I want you to close on that. Then we'll move to the next segment here.
So Bishop Winkler, this is Bishop Winkler is another interesting man. I don't like to get involved with these men of God because, like I said, Mr. C, I'm not loved by many pastors, and you know that, and I think I want to stay that way. This is the only man who will collect money from someone in his church. The person will give offering regularly, will buy him things, and that person die, and he say he has nothing to do with the body. He can't come to his church. The great Jesus, who I know, went to his man Lazarus and went and saw his friend Lazarus' body. And the bishop, so Mr. said, these Liberian people, no, listen, here's what I think. I've always said it, and you, like you said, a follower of the draft. Mr. C, there's two things the white man took to Africa, and it has kept our people poor. And the sooner our people realize and open their eyes and begin to confront these two problems, that is the only way we will free ourselves from this suffering we are under. Look, you see slavery and you see religion. Those two things the white man took to Africa has been our problem. Imagine, most of the world's richest pastors come from Africa, with countries where people are living in abject poverty. The great Jesus wore bare sandals. They had to go take someone donkey for him to come into Jerusalem. Am I correct?
Nazareth.
The great Jesus, he was sitting with a man, and he said, "You're going in that place, someone dunking there, you're bringing for me." These days, our pastors, they fly, they own their own jets. They ride, they wear the latest Gucci and Louis Vuitton, and they brag about it. Why the pastor wife drives a Mercedes Benz, the pastor is driving a Bentley, and the people who gave him the offering to preach the word of God, they are dying from hunger. They come to church hungry. They are there hoping for prosperity while the pastor is enjoying. Folks, for me, I don't do those things. So again, Mr. C, I'm not surprised, but our people must understand it is the mind. It is the mind.
Thank you.
This desperation for salvation, if they don't change the way they think, many of them will die poor.
Thank you. And folks, if you are just joining us, this is the Hour of Politics here, focus on Liberia. My guest is George P. Lobbo Jr., member of Team JMB, as you can see there, and I'm discussing with him, some national issues. George, you are not a lawyer, and I'm not sure you will be one. I'm sure you'll be a politician. But this issue that we are discussing, there's something called the Code of Public Opinion, in which we are all lawyers. McGill wrote a letter. This is U.S. government sanction. Your president is even confused. And he's writing a letter to President. We are telling him, hey, all these things they're saying, they are just mere allegations. If you were to play a lawyer in this Code of Public Opinion, what would be your advice to McGill?
The very first thing is very, very simple. McGill will never survive any serious criminal investigation. I don't need to be a lawyer. Mr. C, there is something called that's famous that being used in Kenya. There's something called the lifestyle audit. I would challenge you, Mr. C, if you conducted a lifestyle audit on the entire CDC government, there will be less than 0.00% of any of them that will pass that audit. You know what the lifestyle audit does? It takes into account what you had before you got the job, what you accumulated during the period you served, and where you are after you left the job. And Mr. C, you don't have to be a man of God, but let's take, for example, let's start with McGill. McGill was kicked out of his apartment at Roland Duo compound. McGill was staying with says Jimama Wolokoli. So all these accusations, let's just take it, even though he's innocent until proven guilty. But let's take into account that he has collected bribe. Nathaniel McGill's wife is known for flying private, for first class, and wearing some of the latest, most expensive designer brands. Nathaniel McGill, who yesterday could barely afford 3 meals because we know George Weah was broke. So how is it that McGill just got in government all of a sudden? They're opening the doors of heavens from the men of God and the money just flowing to him. Where McGill is getting money from to be donating millions and millions of dollars. McGill himself have admitted, even though he's been prosecuted in the court of public opinion, but let's use what we have available to us. McGill has admitted to stealing and say, yes, but our stealing, we are developing here. And he told the people of Bon County, which will make that argument when it comes for the campaign, that your children can die of starvation, that Phoebe Hospital can be without drugs. But when your child ain't got food to eat, take them, bring them to Banga so you can take picture at my house. That will fill your God. That is what McGill to our people. So I think it's very, very clear. We all know that every single thing goes through McGill. McGill is the last man who touches every piece of document that reaches to President Weah. McGill is being referred to as the de facto president, which we know that President Weah does not have the ability to read. And McGill makes most of the decision for him. So at this particular point in time, look, I don't think McGill can fight it. McGill would just make noise, think that President Weah will let it slide. But the United States government not stupid. And some of these dealings they are talking about, Nathaniel McGill, your name have been involved in every single major corruption scandal. We can go back to the very first one, the $800,000. Mr. C, we heard the tape. It was McGill, it was Weah, it was the current Justice Minister, including the thief in charge. So what we're going again?
Who is the thief in charge?
The man who declared his asset, but he said now he has to protect his family. We can see it. The man
are you talking about President Weah?
The thief in charge, that's who he is. He is the man who has emboldened corruption. He is the standard bearer of the Coalition for the Development of Corruption in Liberia, the CDC.
Well, these sanctions are just on 3 officials, not President Weah.
But let me be very officials appointed by President Weah. They work at the will and pleasure of President Weah. They work in President Weah's government. They do not work in the U.S. government.
Are you suggesting that President Weah has been indirectly sanctioned here, given the fact that, in your words, de facto president?
Mr. C, I would never suggest use the same standard that was used. So I would let me bring you back to the standard you were used when you were judging the Unity Party government. And one of the reasons why I admitted and said Madam Salif took responsibility for Noka, and therefore I admitted that yes, there were corruption in the UP government. And I said Ellen was the manager of the country, right? President Weah is in charge. McGill was appointed. The Liberian people did not elect McGill. They elected George Weah to fight corruption. They elected George Weah to hold his officials accountable. And sadly for them, one of the top official appointed by President George Weah, the one who President Weah have left in charge multiple times, every time he travels, he has been sanctioned by the U.S. government. McGill many times have been in charge of the country. Imagine that, Mr. C. This is the man President Weah have entrusted the country with. So it's not just any regular person we're talking about. It's not some mayor. I know the party chairman who are talking in Lagos talk, but this is someone who the country have been in charge of several times. So yes, President Weah is the thief in charge.
Thank you, folks. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the CDC unprecedented lobbying efforts in Washington. What is the CDC up to? Josh will give his take. We will be right back after this very short break. All right, we are back with you. The unprecedented lobbying efforts of the CDC government. George, we share on this platform, we presented yesterday an investigation that Focus on Liberia has done in collaboration with Globe Afrique. We had the whole 16 contracts that the Liberian government, the CDC government, signed with 18 lobbying firms just to lobby Washington. And when we look at the record, we realize that some of the contracts, one is around $900,000 to pay a firm in a year. And this contract extends beyond 2023 all the way to 2024. Another one, $300,000. Another one, $250,000. And most of the contracts, McGill was the principle, foreign principle, they call it.
Foreign principle, yeah.
And then Samuel 12 was also foreign principle, meaning those were the two guys in some of these contracts who represented the Liberian government, negotiated.
And the justice minister as well is there too.
The justice minister also was
the
one
minister
of
of
the foreign
injustice
principle and negotiated on behalf of the Liberian government to negotiate, to lobby for Liberia, to lobby the U.S. government. You look at the information, you have it in your possession. What is going on here? Because, George, let's be clear, we have never seen this before. And the total amount that we're talking about is around 3.3 million United States dollars. Your take?
Mr. C, the very first thing is not only that it's unprecedented, but again, like I've been very clear on the records, we will not be able to know the extent of the damage done by this government until when this government is out of power. Mr. C, the good thing about it, the records will show that most of these funds have been withdrawn from the central bank accounts based on the reporting yesterday, and I want to thank you. Yeah. And based on what the Global Afrique was able to uncover, is that most of these funds have been taken out. Now, where the struggle lies is what is actually being paid to the firms. But as far as we are concerned, our government have been able to withdraw some of this funding. There are a couple of things this will corroborate for us, Mr. C. When we speak of domestic debt, both our domestic and foreign debt services, you know, our government have been, over the last 3 years, we've allotted nothing less than $50 million towards debt consolidation. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And the current legislature have been struggling to obtain documents on who we've been paying.
And the list of the institutions that the government
So Mr. C, you see, for those of us who understand how these things work, we can put the dots together. The fact of the matter, we can't even see who you've been paying. Now, that itself is not only a red flag, that just solidifies our argument. That yes, indeed, that you've been taking money. Now that we know you've been withdrawing money, but Mr. C.
And at some point, to add to you, Josh, the finance minister said they needed time to put a list together. So how did you not have the list, but then you know the total amount you owe people that, you know, provided services for the government? How do you get to know the total if you don't know the number of persons?
Mr. C, here's what I think. The CDC guys have convinced themselves that the Liberians are so stupid that they can do anything because we all are stupid. That is one thing they believe. That is why the government can eat $200 million and build $1 million park, and they say we should declare a holiday. That is why the government can eat $100 million and build a 400,000 road, and they declare a national holiday. That is the CDC model of development and giving back. But I'll say this to you. $3.3 million, Mr. C. Since the CDC came to power, Phoebe Hospital, where I was born, is serviced more than anywhere from 15 to 25,000 Liberian citizens annually. Mr. C, 5 of my brothers and sisters in Bond County died because of the lack of electricity. I've read reports of major government hospitals across the country where they have to borrow gasoline for the ambulance to bring our people to hospital. Many of our hospital shelves are without medication. We know what the conditions are. According to the IMF and the World Bank recent report, anywhere between 340,000 to 536,000 Liberians have gone below the poverty line. Mr. C, our people are struggling. And for a government that spent $3.3 million to lobby a country that holds great historical ties with Liberia, that itself is not only stupid, but a cause for real investigation. Why are we spending this much money? I don't want to be too much. I don't want to bring business argument to it because from a business standpoint, the reason why business are created or established is to maximize profit. If I was the one who was making business decisions, Mr. C, I would want to see what have been the return on this investment. Apart from the photo ops that they come to take to the embassy in Washington, D.C. So I'm not getting there. But Mr. C, here's one thing that is interesting. The Liberian government don't need to come to America to spend all this money. You have the Washington is right there in Monrovia. Washington have made it very clear to you. You don't need to lobby us. Do what is expected of you. You told us you were a pro government. We want you to set a transparent, open budget system that your predecessors had instituted. We want your budget to be realistic. We want your government to spend money on improving the living standard of your people. We want to see you take strong measures in fighting corruption. We think Washington's stupid? Kaino Bagbala, one of the head at LACC, was involved in major corruption scandal. But yet then this man will still be at LACC. Bill Tuareg, we know what happened with the Freeport case. And they put in Buchanan, Mississippi. Washington see those things. There's an ambassador in Monrovia. So for me, Mr. C, I strongly want to side with Globe Afrique point there, where it has been believed that most of these agreements have been used to siphon money for the sake of better words, I would say, for potential money laundering. I think that is what most of these contracts are being used for. But Mr. C, we'll only be able to uncover these things. Thank God for my standard bearer, Ambassador Boaka, who have made it very clear that in our first 90 days, that is going to be part of our 100-day deliverable action plan. We must ensure that we turn all the books and flip through all the pages. And I can assure you, Mr. C, the Liberian people will have more, and there will be a lot more to uncover when the time comes. But this is not only unprecedented, but it speaks to the government that care less. The government that have taken out funding for all private and religious health centers in the budget. But yet then this government have money to be paying 20,000, 100,000. Why JFK, Cali hospitals are struggling. Their shelves are empty without drugs. These are the circumstances under we are for.
And George, based on our investigation and the document in our possession pulled from the U.S. Department of Justice, along with Globe Afrique, Liberia is the only African country on this planet that has all of these lobbying contracts with its traditional ally. Now, we look further. Ghana has one active lobbying contract going on. Africa
paying
has
20,000
a month, right? And Ghana and Africa has one each. Benin, 0. Guinea, 0. Sierra Leone, 0. I mean, come to think about it, all our neighbors in the sub-region, 0, 0, 0, except for Ghana and Africa that have one going on. And we are talking about America here. This country, Liberia, was more established by the American government. So America knows Liberia. To be spending this money when your neighbors in the sub-region not doing that, when they are, the question is, what is the use of our embassy then? Why do we have an ambassador to the United Nations? Why do we have an ambassador accredited to Washington? Why do we have them?
The Liberian embassy in Washington, D.C. is used for the Liberian government to leave Monrovia, to rapidly come and take pictures in it. That's what it's for. That is all it's being used for. Because the last time I checked, Mr. C, there have been no serious foreign direct investments that have gone to Liberia through the efforts of our embassy. And let me give our ambassador some credit, because this guy, he's a seasoned diplomat. But sometimes, Mr. C, when you work for a bad regime, for a bad government, while he's out selling that his government is credible, that Liberia is safe, the next morning the people wake up, they are reading news of massive gross violation of the Constitution. So they make the job difficult for him. But you are absolutely right, Mr. C. Think about it. If Ghana is paying $20,000 per month, now let's do basic math here.
What is Ghana's budget, first of all?
Mr. C, stop that other joke, man. Don't even get to that point, because that's not a conversation for us to have. We can reduce Ghana to that extent, but I'll just say this. Ghana is bringing in annually from the United States, in terms of the tourism sector, Ghana is raking in more than $1 billion annually. What is Liberia bringing in? What is Liberia getting back? Absolutely nothing. So again, Mr. C, can you name one major airline that has a direct link straight to Monrovia from the United States? Even though the Unity Party government managed to secure funding. Because what we didn't want to do with Delta wanted to own the airport for some time. We said, no, we ourselves will borrow money, we'll face the runway, we'll build a terminal that meet international standard, but then you can come, but we're not giving you the ability to own the airport for a certain period of time. Now, the airport was 75 to 80% completed. President Weah wanted to break morale. He forced it to open the airport. And the Chinese engineer warned the man, this airport is not yet completed. We have not fully concluded the arrangement based on what we're supposed to do. But for them, it's about optics. It's about picture taking. They rush, they open the airport. This is why we have all these small problems there. So today, again, we've gone back to the same old thing. So technically, because they will not be able to maintain and the job was not fully completed, Mr. C, we could end up electing a new government that will not have to go again and have to borrow money to start from where the CDC damage will end. So you see these things. But Mr. C, you got DC in, you got the embassy in Monrovia. If this government was serious about lobbying Washington, President Weah would have taken the necessary steps in Liberia. When you go to the embassy and you attend these events and you tell the people that your government is a pro-poor government, a pro-poor government will not record the largest wage bill since independence in 1847. A pro-poor government will not be the one where the president will begin to fly private jet. With all the aid we all claimed that Madam Salih was getting, the UP was getting, you never saw Madam Salih fly private jet. Never. You never saw the Admiral Conan fly first class and were bragging that, so yeah, I'm the minister of fly first class. Did you ever see Madam Salih take a 50-man delegation to China? Did you see Madam Salih take another? President Weah is the only president in the Liberian history that I know who have taken more foreign trips on non-official visits, wasting taxpayers' money. So, Mr. C, now the simplest thing that they could have done to lobby Washington.
You remember when they went to the COP24? Do you remember the number of persons they carried for the delegation? Do you remember the number?
Mr. C, you say
about 100 plus people they took.
Mr. C, President Weah took a 50-man delegation to Beijing.
Yeah.
And took his wife to the hair store and in the Nike outlet. And that is when I concluded that this guy is not only a joke. This guy has no understanding of what his job description is.
But Joe, on a serious note, what options what are the options for the CDC government to get Washington's attention? Because you and myself know Washington is not smiling with them at all. And you talk about Ghana, bringing home about $1 billion in terms of funding to the country through tourism and other things that they got going with the U.S. government, right? And I just want to know if they can lobby, if the CDC can spend money to get Washington's attention, what can the CDC do? What are its options?
Mr. C, the CDC have had multiple options, and those options remain open to them. The very first thing, the Unity Party government of Madam Salih and Ambassador Bwaka was able to bring the IMF and the World Bank offices right in Monrovia, up Mamba Point there. So they have the World Bank and the IMF right there. Not only that, we had enrolled Liberians in series of international programs. Those programs partly supported by U.S. firms and organizations and institutions from the United States. Now, all we expected the CDC to do, Mr. C, was continue to maintain those agreements, uphold our side of the bargaining. Let's take, for example, Mr. C. I think the CDC has one big blank check that was given to them. All the U.S. government say, do all these things right, we'll write a number in here every year for you. And you know what that is. The MCC. Some of the things that McGill accused of are things that are on the MCC scorecards. The fight against corruption, security. So if the Liberian government were making front a serious effort in addressing those issues, the government will get Washington attention. It is sorrowful that because President Weah have called a speech from the country, that we now have to pay African leaders for President Weah to speak to us. That's what President Weah doing. Washington have told you don't need to come here to us. This is why when the delegation come, every time they leave, it's bad news for them. You remember when they sent the delegation the other time they came, they were in this hotel taking pictures. Right when they went back, they failed the MCC. The CDC government is the only government that buys grades and fail. They send a delegation to DC to buy grade and they fail. And a few days again, they were playing basketball with the ambassador and they thought that was all to it. And what happened? The sanctions take him out. So again, Mr. C, the CDC government don't need to be wasting taxpayers' money. $3 million could open a cassava farm in Nimba County that could create at least anywhere from 200 to 350 jobs for young people. That the cassava farm could be able to provide breakfast for children in school, elementary school. Our government needs to direct resources where they are needed instead of taking money for their personal use. So again, Washington is represented in Monrovia, and Washington continue to make it clear. You don't need to come to DC. We have an ambassador there. Use him. Do the right things. Fight corruption. Stop stealing. Stop wasting the people's money. Take the job serious. Demonstrate real leadership. But President Weah have shown no appetite, no willingness, no desire for doing any of those things. All he wants to do is to record music and go play soccer. All right. The Liberian will relieve President Weah so he can have more time on his hand, because I'm pretty sure President Weah will have more albums than Gatti said he ever had.
Thank you so very much, George. Let us come to the final segment of our discussion here, which is the opposition political parties versus the CDC in 2023. So, George, the opposition has been in a difficult place with the infighting, framework document. Things got so gloomy for you guys. And now the CDC is now like on the radar. These sanctions are like going to bite them. I heard that there are serious confusion in their camp. So the opposition now has an opportunity. So let's get to it. Today, we saw the CPP that the Unity Party abandoned and left and ran away from, officially presented to the Liberian people according to Mr. Cummings, their amended framework document. What is your take? The CPP is strong and moving, and you are not there.
Mr. C, is every Liberian's right to affiliate, to associate, and disassociate. I mean, I can't tell you how to speak because I respect everyone's fundamental God-given right, which is protected by law and every constitution around the world, to freely express himself. And I respect your words, but that is not what happened. The Unity Party withdrew, which we stated reasons why we withdrew. As a matter of fact, our withdrawal was even confirmed through our legal litigation by the Supreme Court, that there were clauses within the document which we felt were unconstitutional and they were wrong. And as a result of that, we withdrew from such quasi-arrangement. Having said that, Mr. C, I know it's a very interesting thing, especially most of us in the media, when the opposition go after each other. I have made a commitment that I will respect the guys from the other side, because for me, my ammunition and my bullets are directed towards the Coalition for the Development of Corruption in Liberia, the CDC, headed by George Weah. For me, I strongly believe that Mr. Alexander Cummings will win an election, but that election will not be won in Liberia. It could be in Georgia or in Maryland. So at this particular point in time, anything that involves Mr. Cummings wasting any of my ammunition towards that effort will be a complete waste of resources. As a business guy, Mr. C, I do not believe in wasting resources. I would say this. Here's what I do. I would say, I wish Mr. Cummings all the best. But again, Mr. C, just for the sake of this discussion and to provide substance to educate our folks, Mr. Cummings is one of those aspirants who was being marketed as a guy who could unite a country, as a clean hands man, as a man who cares deeply about building institutions. But one thing he has demonstrated over the years is his inability to actually lead. He has demonstrated that all front. We've seen that, Mr. C. And what do I mean by that? Mr. C, when you work in a structural environment like you and I, you can run Southwest in any city in America because you know what it is, what is expected of you every day. A guy like me who work in the bank, knowing the opening and closing procedures. I know what it takes to open a bank. I know how to do those type of things because there are procedures, there are SOPs for all these institutions. And what Mr. Cummings has demonstrated in Liberia is that when you leave those environment, those structural environment, and you get to a complex one like Liberia, you sometimes struggle. And Mr. Cummings have found it difficult adjusting, whether it is from his communication or his ability to engage with other folks. It has been difficult for him, and hopefully he will learn and he will come along. But I know very well that the job that he's seeking, it is a public service job. And sadly for Mr. Cummings has zero public service experience. And I don't think it would make sense anywhere in the world. When people want to hire, they hire the best of the best, the bright of the brightest, the man with the most experience. And that person for this job is the man who has proven to be the best public servant, who recently was awarded with the highest public service award in Italy and is set to be awarded again in Africa. That is experienced Joseph Newman Boakai, the man who has been tested, who has served as Minister of Agriculture, Managing Director of LPMC, Managing Director of LPRC, former Vice President for 12 years. We believe he is the man who is ready to be president from day one, who look presidential every day, who is not struggling to adapt. And on the basis of that, I will say this to you, Mr. Sid, that is who we're going with. But on the issue of the new CPP, Mr. Sid, I want Mr. Cummings to understand that the issue that he continued to play with, it could be a problem for him down the road. The issue of Liberty Party, Mr. Cummings have proven to be a serious instigator.
Josh, I don't know why you are worrying about.
No, I'm just you brought a question, so I have to speak.
Let me come in.
That's it.
I'm not sure you should worry about that. Maybe you should focus more on what you would do to win.
Oh, no, I am.
Because the thing is, the very Liberty Party you are complaining about, a faction of the Liberty Party is supporting GMB. You have absolutely nothing to say. Probably that one is Jesus Christ for you. The one that does not support you, that's the one you have problem with. So, talk to me about that. How is the Yumble wing of Liberty Party different from the what's it called? Most ability win?
Mr. C, I think it's important based on the question. Let's look at what happened recently with the Liberty Party when they went to court. The revised constitution that reflected the Banga Amendment or the Banga Convention or the Farmington Amendment, right? What was the main point of contention? That the political leader is the head of the political party, and that the political leader is the one who set the agenda for the party in consultation with the NEC. The Constitution does not say the NEC sets the agenda of the party in consultation with the political leader. So by that statement, the political leader is in charge of the political party.
How does that benefit your?
No, hold on. No. Listen, I want Mr. C. Want for our audience to understand what is happening.
I really don't want us to dwell on the.
No, it's important because you know what? When you understand the basics or the genesis of the problem, because Mr. C, part of solving the solution to any problem is knowing what the problem is. If you don't know the problem, you can't solve the problem. So let's understand what is the problem. The problem here has been that who is in charge of the party? That the NEC makes a decision for the party. That have been the major point in the Liberty Party.
But so the party is divided now, as we know.
No. So, Mr. C, what I will expect you to do now is, it's not only while it is true we agree that there are faction or there's friction within the party, we expect that you as well and other well-meaning Liberians would begin to educate the Liberians on why there is a problem. Because what is the problem here is the issue of power struggle. And when this issue has been settled by the Supreme Court, and the Constitution should reflect what I just stated, then we should have no argument. Now, what we should be doing now is to begin to say, based on the Constitution, based on what the Supreme Court rule, this is who is in charge of the party. This is who set the agenda for the party. And I think if we do that, then that gives leverage or edge to Nyombi Kangalore. But however, I wish Mr. Cummings and his new CPP all the best. And I will move on from there. But as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I'm not using any weapon on them, so it's not bothering me. My ammunition is taken for the CDC.
It seems to be, George, now you are opening the door for any form of discussion, because you have now come to realize, when I say you are talking about the Unity Party, that you alone can win this thing. And so, in any case, you will need just about anybody, maybe the ANC or any opposition party for that matter, to win this thing. Because the danger is to say, well, I don't need anybody and come short against Joshua again. That would be a blow. Are you opening the window to talk to folks in the CPP?
Mr. Sear, listen, I never thought I'd be a politician, but I'm glad that I'm involved. And as my candidate is a very peaceful man. He's open to everything. One thing Ambassador Boakai have said, and as a supporter and as a strong surrogate and as an aide to the confidant to the former vice president, those are things he has expressed both publicly and privately, that he believed that he must lead a united Liberia. And Mr. Sear, so we are always open to ensuring that we can secure the support of all Liberians so that we can be able to rescue our country. If we are going to rescue our country, we need all Liberians. But here's what I want to be very clear about. Mr. C, any other person in the opposition, regardless of our political differences, will be better off than George Weah any given day. That is one thing I do agree upon. And on the basis of that, I can say here today, definitively, that if elections were held today and it was George Weah against Tewon Gongo, Tewon Gongo, maybe my owner want to talk to me, say, George, I need you to go out and campaign for me. But if it's to vote for him, he don't need me. He don't need to speak to me. I will vote for Tewon Gongo. If it is George Weah and Mandela Cooper who don't need to come to me to tell me, Mr. Lobbo, I need you to vote for me. I know that she's better off than George Weah. If it is Mr. Cummings and George Weah, Mr. Cummings and the ANC folks don't need to ask me. I would definitely vote for him against. Listen, George Weah is everything.
No, George, let me ask a question further. You said that door is open because Ambassador Boakai, Vice President Boakai, is a man of peace. He wants to lead a united Liberia.
Absolutely.
And there got to be some form of consensus in any shape and form. If for any reason they feel that, look, let's come together way before the first round and give Georgia one blow, is JMB open to relinquishing his ambition so that somebody else can lead the opposition ticket?
Let me make something very clear. I do not answer hypotheticals, but I want to be very, very clear and definitive on this rule. I have been very clear on the record for stating that the former vice president for 12 years will never be vice president. And he will be running for the presidency come 2023. End of story. There's no if and but about it. Again, we want to be very clear. Why it is true, we welcome all other Liberians. We believe that he is the best suited candidate to defeat George Weah and begin to set the standard that we want in our country. And it is not negotiable.
Thank you. And George, we heard about DAL, that is the Democratic Alliance of Liberia. Our understanding is that it is in talks with the Unity Party and also directly with Mr. Boakai. Where is that now? How involved is the Unity Party with DAL?
Mr. C, as far as I'm concerned, we concluded a very fruitful meeting over the weekend with our stand-up bearer. In that meeting, nothing of such was talked about. We've heard rumors. We continue to hear these speculations of alliances, of new collaboration. So I would say this to you, Mr. C. Ambassador Boakai, being that he's a former vice president, he's a statesman, and it has been proven that many Liberians now believe that he is the best candidate suited to defeat George Weah, and he's the best candidate to take Liberia out of this and restore dignity and credibility to our country. On the basis of that, our arms are open. We mean, again, I will say this. We are open to all Liberians. So, yeah, the conversation of alliances, the conversation of new groups here and there, Mr. C, we are in a political season. These things will happen. But at this particular point in time, I cannot confirm nor deny anything. I have not been privileged to how far these negotiations are ongoing. I do speak to the former vice president from time to time. One thing he do not hold back when it comes to some of these things because he definitely know that that's something he will want me to talk about. But at this particular point in time, Mr. C, we'll keep it where it's at. We'll say that there are all speculations in the air. But at the end of the day, Liberian people, look, let me say this to you, Mr. C. There are so many ways to kill this cat. I believe in feeding the cat to kill the cat. So there's different methods. Other people believe that You can put a cat in a bag and knock it. Other people, for me, I believe that set a top of water down, put a can of sardine at the bottom, and let the cat think that he can drink the water and then eat the sardine, and he will stay there and kill himself. So there's so many strategies. So I would just say this, but we believe that at the end of the day, Mr. C, our ultimate goal is to get to the mansion and get Ambassador Boakai there because we believe that he's the president we need and we'll do just that.
We heard about JMB tag team. I'm not sure you are part of them. I'm not sure, but I know you know of them. That is a group that have been pulled together. Is it dead or is it still alive? We haven't heard anything much yet.
Mr. C, let me be very clear for the record. I am a member of the tag team.
Okay.
I'm actively involved. The team is in existence. Recently, Mr. C, when the SGBV group had a program in Philadelphia, they play against JMB tag team. That in that game, my friend Robert Gwagwa scored a goal there. So the tag team is active. They were selling T-shirts. They've been engaged. The other day, we had a massive meeting in Monrovia where we launched our Monserrado County tag team community leaders. So again, Mr. C, the way we do business is different. We not only the most experienced political party. We've been involved in national elections way too longer than so many other parties. So you're not going to expect the Unity Party that everything we do that is going to be like other people. For other people, they want the news. For it, we believe that our ground game is strong, and Ambassador Boakai and his team continue to work on it. And I can say this, Mr. C, many people want to speak of the tag team. The tag team is not the only team we have. We have so many different groups now for Ambassador Boakai that are working. They're doing different things, and I can tell you that we like our chances. We like where we are, and we are confident about our position come 2023.
And George, one thing I spoke to you the last time you were here was JMB website, and you said that it was in the works. And I believe you said to me it will be a matter of months. Where are we?
With regards to what? The website?
The website, the JMB website.
Mr. C, let me. I think it's good. Let me address that today because I keep hearing about this issue of the website, Mr. C. The tag team had its own website. When you talk about the website, when you're launching a website for a major campaign, there are a lot of negotiations ongoing. One, who's going to manage the website? Is it going to be managed by the Unity Party, or is it going to be managed? Let me say this. I will announce this. There's one group that many Liberians don't hear about. There's a group called the Patriots. When it comes to GMB, the Patriots is another GMB strong team built of lots of experienced professionals, just like the other groups. So again, there's conversation right now because there were people who were involved with the website. The website is on and running, but where we are now is who manages the website. Which team will host this website? Because the tag team already has a website. Now, do we give this website to the party? Do we give it to the former vice president office, or do we give it to the Patriots, or do we give it to the movement for JMB for president? Or so that's where we are. But however, Mr. C, I will tell you.
Which website you're talking about is up and running? The JMB for president's website?
Mr. C, I just told you, I said the website is not up and running. I said because we are discussing on who will host and manage the website.
Oh, it is not up.
No, it's not up because I have been invited to this meeting where I've gone through it, and with my involvement, we've been discussing that Mr. Lobbo, you can be involved in managing it right now temporarily, but I said no, it has to be done by a dedicated group of people, and then we'll go from there. So that's what we have. But Mr. C, I can tell you, our website is.
All right. I thought you said it's now. I thought you said it's now.
No, it's not out there for you to go there now to go click because I think that's what you want to. But we do have it, and it's good. When I say up and running, I mean every single thing that needs to be done on our website is ready to go. It's done. The only thing that's left is for us to launch it out to the public, and that's it. That's something we'll do.
And how long you think that's going to take, George?
Mr. C, I'm not going to give you words there so that way you begin to prosecute me. I will just say to you that we'll continue in subsequent time. We'll make it available to the public because we know it is important for information dissemination. We want people to read about our program, especially when it has to do with ARTS. We want Liberians to see what we really want to do in agriculture. We want Liberians to be able to see what type of roads we are talking about, what type of corridors we'll be prioritizing. We want Liberian people to see what we mean in terms of investment in the tourism sector and how many jobs we think we can be able to create. We also want Liberians people to see why sanitation is of paramount concern to our agenda for moving Liberia forward and creating jobs. So definitely, Mr. Sid, our website is
George,
important.
talking about ART,
ARTS
is a plan that for GMB. Sometimes ago, when I talked to you here, you said, well, it will be rating. You will see, and you even said that when that is done, it will even be uploaded on the website. The website is not up yet and running. That's why you just told us. But I just want to know, is ART, the whole plan, is a rating now? It's a rating.
Mr. Say again, here's what I would say to you on our ARTS plan. When a politician speaks, usually what we do is he summarizes his agenda.
I know, I know, but what I'm saying is a rating now.
Mr. Say, hold on now. Mr. Say, hold on now. I just told you, we cannot run a campaign for election without presenting to the Liberian people an agenda and a plan. And I can assure you,
Josh, this discussion has been around for a little over a year now.
Mr. Say,
and the simple question I'm asking,
here's what you should do.
Has it been rating now?
Mr. Say, the plan is being concluded on because there are a lot of different policies we have to look at. There are a lot of different areas we are considering. And again, let me say this, Mr. Say, I know where you guys want to go.
That's your usual saying. You accuse the CDC. We are looking into.
Nah, we at least we
are considering. And you are still considering the ART that you've been talking about.
Mr. Say, we have done nothing wrong as far as we are concerned. The fact of the matter, we have a plan in place. We know what we want to do. We can state that categorically. We can talk about it, and the Liberian people can know. They know what our agenda will be. They know what our plans are. That is the most important thing. What the Liberians did not get from the CDC is what the CDC intended to do for them upon election, and that is what we can offer them. We have made it clear. Again, we said something, Mr. Say. We said our entire agenda for transforming Liberia will be summed up in 4 letters words. It does not mean that that's all our plan, but we just said it will be in those 4-letter words. So, Mr. Said, a lot of things in ARTS, we can be able to break down education. How do we fit in education? How do we fit in access to healthcare? We didn't talk about healthcare, but we talk about sanitation. So those are things we need to talk about. So again, when we say Mr. Say it's been worked on, it is a plan that we're going to sell for a campaign. It cannot be done in 2-3 days that you just wake up. Because you know what? Every single sector must be reflected in that plan. Because that is the one that will guide us.
George, other than the Unity Party or Team GMB, as you call it, that has been struggling with, writing this plan. Tiawan Gonglo, who just coming in the race, Tiawan Gonglo has a website, and he has a 10-point plan rating. It's on the website. The details are not there, but the aspiration, this is what we will do. They explain how they will do it. They have not put time and the specifics. And for me, it is something. At least they're telling us this. This is what we're thinking. You have been saying, hey, this is the direction we are thinking. But you have not been able to write it down to share it. Tiawan Gonglo is just coming from behind. He has a website. The 10-point plan is right there. What is taking the most experienced political actor in our country, according to you,
if you want
to show to us his plans?
Mr. Say, the difference is that Tiawan Gonglo, like I said, the Unity Party does have a website. If that is your argument, GMB is the senator of the Unity Party. So go there and look and check what the Unity Party plans are. The tag team does have a website. Is that the argument?
No,
the Unity Party, USA, Canada. So hold on now, Mr. Say. Hold on now, Mr. Say.
Hold on, Josh. The Gonglo website is not a political party, the LPP.
So, Mr. Say again.
So I'm asking for team.
Mr. Say again, let me say this. If you want a 10-point plan, I can write one and give it to you. That's not what we are going to do because the former vice president has a vision, and that vision will be communicated through his plan. And like I just told you, our website is
up. Team can write it, George. You can write it and give it to me.
No, sir. I just told you our website is set. Our discussion now is that because of other major reasons, those who we anticipated would have been working on the website based on their involvement with their jobs. We are now in discussion on who to host the website, who to manage the website. That is where we are. So how much more can I? Why are you making it complicated? And I said everything is on there, Mr. Sear. So stop making this.
Let's leave it there. And
we'll leave it there. The Liberian people at the end of the day will definitely see the GMB website.
I know. I mean, I'm not saying that website are going to develop Liberia. I'm not suggesting that just by somebody having
no, you see it.
Develop Liberia. It just speaks to how you are preparing, how you are trying to be the alternative and different from other political institutions. And you know that is key. Let's talk about the Unity Party newly elected officials. Some people are whining that how could they do this to Mo Ali, Ami Mundai, when Unity Party was in a difficult place. Those guys rose to the occasion. In just about a few months to election, they kicked them out. And they are saying it is a decision by the Unity Party. Lord, these guys were not our best. That's why we kicked them out. And now we got our best. Now that you got your best, how ready are you for prime time?
Mr. Say, from all indications, I think our newly elected team is ready for prime time. They've gotten the ball rolling. They are working on a series of different projects. I am not on the ground, but we've been holding consultations. Like I said, we had a very fruitful meeting this Sunday. So I would say this: there will be people who always crowd foul, Mr. Say. Every time there's a political contest, you have to understand there will be no winner without a loser. If Amin had won, it would have been possible for Amos Sweah and the other guy and Professor Luther to say something different. So it's obvious. We must not forget that Amos Sweah lost to Mo Ali before. Do you record that? So, yes, so what should we be saying? For me, I'm not in the business of crying foul, Mr. C, especially the way the convention was held in a very peaceful manner. They all were given the opportunity to make their case to the delegates, and the delegates decided. All I want to say in this public manner is I want to thank Mo Ali and SG Mo Ali and our former chairman Amin Mundai for where they took the party from to where they left it. This is what should always happen. When you are given an opportunity to serve, the expectation is that you will take the party forward, and so that the new people that were elected now will build upon the successes of the leadership of Amin and Mo. Things that they didn't do right, it will be up to the new leadership to do it right. The Unity Party partisans felt that there was a need for a change of direction, and that is all I can say to it. It is a democratic process, Mr. C. We have to. That is why in democracy they say, "Well, majority wins." We must respect the will of the people, and that is all we can say. And I hope that the expectation, the admiration for those delegates who voted for the new team, that the new team live up to the expectation that the people have in them. And I'm wishing them all the best. I am at their disposal. You know, for me, I do support my party. I support the institution as a very loyal, committed guy. Both SG, Amos Sweah, and I, we've spoken. I've not spoken to the newly elected chairman, but I've heard him doing some of our regular meetings. And I think he's up to the task. He's ready to go. That is all I can say. So, Mr. C, we had a fruitful convention and we got a new team, and that's it.
Thank you so very much, folks. At this time, if you have a question for my guest, Mr. George Preston Lobbo, he's always ready with his pen to take down your questions. The number to call is right there on the screen, 605-313-6004. The number is also posted in the Facebook live feed, the YouTube live feed, and also on the Twitter live feed, as well as the LinkedIn live feed. You can get it whichever platform you are watching. It's on the screen. It's in the scrolling text below. Call if you can and ask whatever question you have. Mr. Lobbo will be more than glad to answer your question. With that, we'll take a short break, hoping that when we return, you will be ready with your call. So, folks, bear with us here. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will be taking your calls. We will be taking your calls when we return. Stay tuned, folks.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
All right, folks. We are back with you here. Let's see if we have a caller. We do. We have Aliu Kamara, who is a dear friend. I likes when he on my back. Aliu, let me see that.
Is it Aliu?
Yeah, Aliu Kamara. Mr. Kamara, go ahead. Your question and comment, please.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and great show. I always like to listen to Biggie George. He's very, very innovative. He got a lot of energy, and I think when he supports something, he's supposed to with his full heart. Uh, a couple of things regarding the election of those guys that are running top there. Look, let's be frank. I think it was time for them to remove Mo Ali and the other guy, Modah. And the reason is simple. To be in such a political hierarchy, you must be an interpersonal person, so to speak, for the lack of, I don't know English. And they were not very familiar with their own base. And they were out of touch with the people surrounding them, the people who were supposed to support them, same class thing. And so it was necessary for the people to have voted them out. Look, it's very important to stay in touch with the people, your voters, and everything like that. Taiwan Gwangolo told me, he said, Aliyu, you can better explain my story better than I can. I knew where he was going. I immediately jumped in and said, Councilor Gwangolo, I wish I could. I really love you and I support you. But I have given my everything to Joseph Yuma Waka. Imagine a guy at the level of Councilor Taiwan Congress. I went to Liberia to even talk with this that guy was difficult. The only guy who volunteered was Noah Gibson. I was like, no, Noah, this is that they will not deliver the way it is. Okay? So you have to be in touch with people. A guy like me with only two person watching me, that one Congo can give me. All right? Another thing, to George's defense, you keep asking about plan and this United Party plan. The United Party is only being pressured by you for this plan. When we go to Liberia every year, the people don't care about that thing you keep asking for. And that's why the United Party is not pressured. Liberian people are not ready for it. They're not asking, but they don't care about it. You walk in the streets of Monrovia, you ask them who you're voting for. It's United Party. They will tell you Joseph Yuma Broker. So my only question for George at this particular moment is, what is the most radical plan on the part of United Party USA to make sure that they are directly connected to their counterpart on the ground in Liberia, because there have been some disconnect. Also, what are they doing to making sure that Honorable Walker gets more proactive? I mean, the base is there, the constituents is there, people are willing to vote for him, but how can we make inroads more into the CDC as opposed to just allowing the economy to make the final determination? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Josh, you can take that one.
So great question. Again, I will not speak to some of the things he said. Those are his views, and my position on respecting everybody's right to freely express himself. However, again, I will use the opportunity to thank our outgoing SG Mo Ali and Amin Modah. They serve our party well. Our partisans went to a convention and they elected new leadership, and that is what I respect. Having said that, he talked about what is the most radical plan on the mind of the Unity Party USA Canada to ensure that we are directly connected with the team back home, and how we can ensure that Joseph Boakai is making gains en route around the country. Did I get him correct?
Yes.
So again, when it comes to the Unity Party USA Canada, we've been very, very clear. I think those of you who've been following us, our position have been made known. One way we started that is by making our voices heard. We advocated that we wanted representation on the National Executive Council or National Executive Committee in Liberia. We were never represented on that. Now we have 2 permanent seats that was allotted to us based on the amended constitution that was adopted in Banga. Having said that, we continue to engage with our team on the ground in Liberia. Our new chairman, Tapper, is very involved with our chairman, Capet Dwayne. I've been on some of these calls. I've been privileged to be on some of these calls and off those calls that I've been briefed, and they are collaborating on series of different issues. Having said that, I will tell you, we are in a political season. You will not expect me to be very detailed about all our single plan. That is not something I will do. However, you should know that we know knowing the CDC government, but I'll tell you, my dear brother, we do have a lot of different things when it comes to ensuring that JMB is elected president. We are leaving no stone unturned. We are taking nothing for granted. That is what I would say, because of this is a public space. We'll keep it just like that.
Thank you. At this time, I will read some comments and try to take note if you can, or you can just give a general response. This one from Menvi Dishu. I disagree with George. His interpretation of other parties' constitution is misleading. He writes, this is Dr. Batankula, Josh Lobbo. This is how definitive you guys should have been with the ANC. Next time, do not mislead people. When you believe something different, it makes you look duplicitous. Wow, he's using a big word there. That year from Talo Puewankwa, now on the sister of Sasta, Gonglo will read every document that presents on his desk. He will stay awake, read, and not outsource his responsibility to his inner circle for decision making. I think she's throwing a little jab there at George. Like here from Justice, right? Gonglo presidential campaign mandates that record reports are of significant changes than Weah or any other candidates. The records are there. Furthermore, what president have ever conducted such reports for president? I don't know. I didn't get that clear there. Yeah, from Sam Wallow. The new chairman is now ready for prime time, talking about a Luther Tapper there of the Unity Party. I will be surprised if he makes past 9 months. Wow, this guy will be a prophet. How can that be? Yeah, from Arthur Dennis, George Lobbo and JMB are planning to will do in the future. Yeah, that person is just using your land there that you're always accusing CDC up there. Later from Hassan Bedete, UP and CDC are the same. They are all criminals. That is a strong one there. I don't know how did you come to that conclusion. Later from Patrick Kennedy, George Lobo. Ask anybody that knows me, if you think you banner, I am more banner than you. You will feed my strength in 2023. Is that person quoting somebody? If you think you banner, George,
those words sound familiar.
Someone told me, President Weah said that recently. I don't know how true is that. Just few of the comments. Let me see if we have. We have few callers, but respond to the comments very briefly. Then I'll bring in the callers.
Very briefly, I want to respond straight to Batom. Let me start up with Batom. There was someone before Batom Kula on the issue of Tewon Gonglo. He supported Ambassador Bwaka in 2017. He's a decent man. I've met him. I know him personally. And I mean, if he was elected president, I'll have no problem. I wish him all the best. I got nothing against him. That is his stake. On the issue of outsourcing job, it just speaks to President Weah's inability to read, to take his job serious. But Batom Kula, again, let us be very, very clear. We're not deceptive in our approach. The very first thing when we got together, hopefully we can be truthful. The CPP framework agreement outlined 3 means by which we would select our ticket. The very first one was consensus, and we said what was going to inform that consensus building was going to be based on the VPS, the Voters Perception Survey, meaning we're going to ask the ordinary Liberians that of these candidates, who you think is best to lead a ticket. That is what we should have done. So again, what that speaks to is that the fact of the matter that we didn't go there trying to force our will on people. We didn't go there arguing that despite of our numerical strength, that we must lead the ticket. That we went there open-handed. We went there welcoming all of them. That even people who got 7%, that we were able to sit with them and say we're equal when we should not have done it. What have happened here today now demonstrate that the man who has 7% is the one who's arguing that the man who had 9-point-something%, that he holds more political leverage and more political strength than the man who has 9%. I don't know how that makes sense for me from a math perspective, but again, that is what it is. Those are not the negotiation we would have gotten into. So technically, you can see that indeed that the man who has zero political capital was the one who was more desperate, and that is why Mr. Cummings' actions of undermining and ensuring that he led serious confusion in the CPP. That's exactly what he has demonstrated. This is why the man with 7% will jump into a race where we say there should be consensus building. I think if we really wanted to be realistic, it was proven. Most of the decision making in the CPP was with the 4 political leaders, and it was proven that 3 of the 4 build consensus. It was only one who was anti. So technically, it demonstrated that the Unity Party could build consensus with the other 2 parties, and one party was just the one who was desperate. And now we see why indeed that all these conflict that he has been fueling in the Liberty Party. This is why Mr. Cummings sponsored a convention in Ghana to secure an endorsement. We know all of these things. So it's clear now why he would disrespect Senator Lawrence and will go to the Liberty Party headquarters even after being won. So we see why these things were happening.
Yes,
so
I thought you let litigated.
No, but I responded to a comment, so I'm just responding to a comment. So
thank you. Let me bring in this caller. Caller with phone number ending in 4957. Harris J. Michael, I see here. Are you Michael? Where are you joining us from?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
You say Harris?
Yeah, Harris J. Michael.
I call you from Minnesota.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for allowing me. And let me say thank you to Mr. George Lobbo for his effort to sell the Unity Party to the electorate, to defend the party, and I commend him for that. I just want to quickly talk on these coming issues. There is a man who is represented as the one who has all the experience. He's the clean man. He got all the solution. He's never been in government before, so he should be given chance to leave Liberia. Now, granted, that is true. But then there's common say in the Bible, or common will say, by their fruit we shall know them. But here is a man now. He's the best man seated. I think if you want to provide a better Liberia, and our better Liberia with me, they want to have a united Liberia. How do we have that united Liberia? When the better arrangement you are into, you're undermining other people, disrespecting other political leaders. So how sure are we will trust with national leadership? If something is going to be more divided, you agree with me that Liberia needs reconciliation most. But how can we trust this man? He's all the place conflict, confusion, Liberty Party, so desperate for president. He's spending money here and there. So my only conclusion would be that I think Mr. Cummings would be a very wasteful president. Why do I see this? Because he spent all these millions of dollars for 2017 up to now. He spent millions of dollars. He achieved little or no result. So it tells me that when he tries to know national leadership, he's going to spend the country money. Just spending money, randomly without any result. So I think Mr. Cummings' presidency will be a waste, an economic waste to Liberia, and Liberians will not prepared to take that chance. Thank you so much for having me.
But hold on, Mr. Cummings, he was at Coca-Cola. He did not waste Coca-Cola money. If anything, you are saying he's wasting his own money. So we are an institution. He never wasted the institution money. No record of that. Why are you concluding now that he's going to waste another institution, which will be the Liberian government? Should he become president, he will waste the Liberian government money when he has no record of wasting institution money except for his.
Can I respond to that?
Quickly.
Okay. Now, what is the essence of spending all this money? What is the essence of Mr. Cummings spending this money? He wants to become president, right? But he spent all this money, he gets no result that taking anywhere near the presidency. So that's why I concluded that if you make this man president, the same way he's going to spend the country money and achieve nothing. I'm not arguing that it's not his own money, but this is something that he's doing. It's embedded within him that he wants to take to national leadership. How I rule my house, how I make decisions in my house will definitely reflect how I make decisions on the production or in high organization, especially when I'm given the opportunity to have the authority to make final decisions. So we get that clear.
All right, I got it clear, but I'm going to tell you this, right? The man has the money; he can decide how he spends it, and also when someone is farming,
nobody questions that.
When someone is farming, they will spend all the money buy the tools, hire people, plant the rice. Sometimes it takes months before the rice is cultivated. So Mr. Cummings may be telling you, you may not be seeing it now, but you see in the future.
You get result by harvesting the rice.
So let me. I think the color. Let me have the color make this point for him.
Yeah, George. Let me take the other color, then you can respond, please. Okay.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
All right. All right. Let's take color with phone number ending in 1816. Your name and where you're joining us from, please.
Yes, my name is Jeuro Tube, and I'm calling from New Jersey.
Jeuro Tube. Speak a little louder, Jeuro. Speak a little louder.
What's thinking about the other?
Go ahead.
Where is
for Nation and Dede. All right. Let me block George too. This guy always speaking Kisi. I can't speak Kisi. Say, I can be jealous when he's speaking Kisi, George. So I'm speaking cool. Imagine where they. Okay, I'll be saying you so. Let's go. Go ahead.
All right. So in 2017, I supported Mr. Comey because I thought he had an agenda for Liberia. But then after the campaign, when I started seeing Mr. Comey's base carrying hammers, from time to time, I felt so discouraged because they play way back in my mind. I used to see pictures of William B. Stonewall being carrying hammers, and that wasn't good for our people because knowing the roads in the village, they are not big, and so they have a one thing. Then it means that only 2 persons will be carrying the hammer. That picture discouraged me. Now, coming to today, Mr. Comey is so desperate to lead the country, and all the money he's spending. For me, I can tell you that if he wins, he will first recover the money, make a profit with that, and turn into the Liberian people's business. So Mr. Comey is not in a good place to become the leader of the country. Now, if people talk about Coca-Cola, he was saying Coca-Cola, he did this. Listen, Coca-Cola is a company that has systems. Liberia has no system.
So who is in a good place now? Who is in a good place now?
Just let me learn.
All right.
So and then coming to that of Liberty Party, the problem in Liberty Party is being caused and pushed by Mr. Comey. You can't go into collaboration with a party without the head of the party, the political leader. So he's pushing it, and Liberians are seeing it. Everybody's seeing it, and he's pushing it with somebody like Musa Beledi that has no credibility.
All right.
And we are seeing all that. So I believe strongly that if GMB can agree for 1 term, then he will be the right man. And then after GMB, the younger generation should take over.
And Cummings should not spend the presidency at all.
No.
And so you are saying Weah is the one in the right place right now.
Right now, he's in the right place.
Thank you.
And the confusion comic. Hello, I want to talk to Judge Lobbo also.
Okay, we'll get a number to you. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you. All right. All right. Let's take another caller here. This time it will be Mr. Paul Harrison. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Sia. So, I'm just, right now Liberia is in a tough spot. We're looking for a leader that will transform our country. So I'm just asking if we just, if we just do the exercise of taking 2 characters, right, and put them behind a screen with no name, with just faceless characters,
right,
and we give their history. We're trying to make a decision now, right?
Right.
And also we have 2 characters that work for 40 years, and they both receive the same income. Okay. After 40 years, one of them was able to transform his income into wealth, and the other came out and said, I'm living on loan, I'm poor. Who will you choose to leave your child with for your child to live with? That's a decision Liberia has to make right now.
And who will you
Mr.
choose?
Boyka work. I would choose a rich man. The man are able to transform his wealth. I mean, it's turning into wealth. And that's a clarity between Mr. Cummings and Mr. Boyka right now. They both work almost the same number of years. And Mr. Boyka came out to tell us that he's poor. He's living on loan. And Mr. Cummings are able to transform his turning into wealth.
Thank you.
To let you know that this man is able to transform our nation. So, like, brother, the choice is very simple.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Boyka is a failure.
Thank you. All right. We will take this next one here, George. 3 more, and then we'll be out of here. Phone number ending in 4147, please. Let us hear you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. This is Mike calling from Minneapolis.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
And and I just wanted to make a comment here, and my comment will be in the form that Mr. Lobbo can respond to. We saw the CPP under various leadership of all 4 political leaders, and under Mr. Cummings' leadership, we saw the CPP have its most success. It was able to establish itself as a party. It was able to go into election season and win tremendously, and it was able to well document itself. And then we saw the CPP fall into the hands of Ambassador Boyka, and in his hands we saw the CPP fall apart. And so therefore, I'm throwing this at Mr. Lobbo. How then can you say such a man is able to lead a divided nation into unity and into prosperity when he couldn't even do that within the CPP? Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Let's take the last one, and you can respond, Mr. Evans Morris. Let us hear you, Morris.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. So. And I must commend George Lobbo. I think he always does a great job on this platform. I just want to say something quickly. You know, Mr. Lobbo, your papa JMB, he shows lack of leadership. There are a lot of things that's been going on.
What's the caller's name? I want to hear his name.
Evan Morris.
He's always the second to talk. Yeah, he's always the second to come out and speak. You know, I think his age, for some of us who would have considered him, based on his experience, for some of the things that he said, cornering opportunities, being a park car, that's not a thing we expect from an elderly man. You know, a chief, somebody who's supposed to be a leader, who's supposed to take responsibility to shift all the blame. You know, but again, I will ask you, Mr. Lobbo, I'm sure the woman of seats for you in the upcoming GMB government. Don't you think you'll be more effective on the ground in Liberia? Or you think the thing you're doing here will be the best way to get GMB elected? And then quickly before I leave, I just want to let everybody know on the show, YouTube Super Chat is not available on this platform. You can donate $2, $1, $10, $20 to keep this platform going. I just want to put that plug in. And thank you, Mr. C, for taking my call. Hopefully George will answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Morris. All right, Mr. Lobbo.
All right, let me start from the bottom up. Don't I think I will be more effective in Liberia than I'm doing here in America? I think Liberians know that I'm not going to pride myself, but I think the Unity Party knows that. I think Ambassador Boyka understands that, and I think everybody on our team knows that George is a very effective communicator. So just to answer Evans Morris' point, yes, indeed, I do have plans to be in Liberia and be on the ground. I think I've proven that when it came to the issue of the referendum, Mr. C, you recall that when I campaigned against the CDC government during the referendum, and the success is there. So definitely I will be in Liberia. We can put that to rest. But there's something he said, and I think I admire his statement, but then he contradicted himself a little bit when he says someone who is supposed to be an elderly man. My good friend Aaron Morris, Ivan, right? I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Yeah,
you
Evans.
see, taking responsibility is an admittance of where you fell short as a leader. That is how you take responsibility. So the statement of we squander opportunities is Ambassador Boyka saying that yes, indeed, when we secure $17 million grant from the government of China to renovate the SKD, maybe our government should have been more forceful in ensuring that those who are going to renovate the SKD, that it included this, and that. However, because it was a grant, we just let the Chinese government hire their own contractor and they did whatever they wanted to do because we felt that they were just doing us a favor. For example, taking responsibility. Mr. Sear, you spoke of the executive mansion. How is it that we hire a Chinese firm to come and renovate the mansion for us and then we'll come and do more damage than it should have done? So we take responsibility. And what I think Liberia has been lacking is a leader who is honest to his people. And I think that itself shows that this man has the character and the good judgment. And I think that is the leader we want. Someone who will say, you know what, here is my asset. This is what I own. And it's not going to say, you know what, I'm afraid because I want to hide it. I think that is self-demonstrate leadership. So for me, that is the type of leader I will support any given day. And so I will tell you, Ambassador Boyka have demonstrated that. Let me go to Mike from Minnesota. And he said, honor Mr. Cummings, the CPB got most of its successes. It is true. But one thing you fail to talk about, Mike, is that the reason why the CPB got most of its successes under Mr. Cummings is the fact that every other single political leader were willing to work with Mr. Cummings. They were not undermining. They were not trying to recruit from within the ANC. They were not instigating. Despite of the leaked audio tape, the Unity Party did not pull out. We did not say, Mr. Cummings, while we are here with clean hands. Yeah, you have 7%, but yet then we say we are equal. Yet then we heard the leaked audio tape of Mr. Cummings had already promised jobs and was ready to offer the vice president to the Liberty Party. Didn't you hear that? This is a clean hand man who demonstrated leadership. Is that the type of leadership we want? One who establishes a process and begin to undermine and corrupt the process before the process even gets started? Is that what you are proud of? Then you can be proud of that. But that is not the type of Liberia we want. We want a Liberia where we set up programs, where we set up procedures, where we set up a process by which we will go through, that we allow the process to play out, that we do not siphon the process, that we do not corrupt the process, that we do not undermine the integrity of the process. And that is what Mr. Clean Hands begin to do. So we heard a leaked audio tape. We've heard not only leaked audio tape, we heard from Sando or from the Liberty Party, how Mr. Cummings was promising $5 million to the Liberty Party. So Mr. Cummings, not only that, he began to undermine and recruit from within the very CPP. Mr. Cummings did not expand the CPP. If there were 200 people in the CPP and we divided them by 4, that means it's 50-50. If you took 10 from Unity Party, does that change the number, Mr. Sear? Does that change the CPP number? There's 200 people in the CPP. And we divide ourselves 50-50, and Mr. Cummings goes to Liberty Party, he takes 5. He goes to Unity Party and takes 5. Does that mean Mr. Cummings has strengthened the CPP? That is the type of leadership you want to brag about. And let me make something very clear here today about Mr. Cummings. And people speak about his integrity. Folks, under Mr. Cummings is when the problem with the CPP started. Many of you may have forgotten. In the book, Things Fall Apart, Mr. C.A., what the author says, he said, you've allowed the white man to put a knife on what held us together. Today we are falling apart. The center can no longer hold. What held the CPP together? It was the framework document, the document that binded us together, the document that stipulated how we were going to move forward as an institution. What did Mr. Cummings do with that document? He fingered and authored that document. Is that the type of leader you want us to talk about? So the CPP fell under Mr. Cummings' watch. And even
in George, that has not been proven in the court of law, isn't it?
Mr. C, I will give you the opportunity today for the Liberians to test your integrity. You read all the different versions of the CPP framework document. Do you believe, because this show is on record for saying that yes, indeed, based on everything you read, based on the cosmetics changes video you play, the harmless changes, the emittance from the cities, from the ANC, and you've been on record here for saying that yes, there were alterations. So are you saying today now that FOL is now reversing course, that there were no alterations made to the CPP framework document? Is that what you're saying today? I want to elaborate on yours. Because you've been here countless times where you said, George, there were alterations. The documents were altered. Are you reversing course now? Has it changed? And if you believe that there were alterations, Mr. C, what we are saying is that under Mr. Cummings, did he alter documents when he worked at Coca-Cola? He could never have done that. Because you know what? He was never in charge of documents. Documents went to the legal department of Coca-Cola. And this is why Liberians trusted him. We believe that the system he worked in, that Mr. Cummings would have demonstrated that type of leadership. He would have instituted. Mr. Cummings, now listen, folks. I mean, I don't want us to get to campaign. If Mr. Cummings could not manage a simple 4-party framework document, imagine what Mr. Cummings will do with the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. Look, folks, I don't want to get into that. Like I said, I've stored my ammunition for the CDC, and we'll push it towards the CDC because there are other questions here I want to speak to. Let me go to the caller who said, if we took 2 characters, and we're supposed to look at those 2 characters, and those 2 characters, one of them, they both served 40 years. One of them went on to become a rich man, and the other man today is living on loan. Again, I'm proud of the man who lives on loan. I'm very proud. But let me tell you why I'm proud of the character who's poor and lives on loan. What that demonstrates to me is that this man, he has seen millions and millions of dollars of government and public funds, but this man did not steal any. And that is what I want. I want a leader who will see. And like JMB always say, and I'm proud of him, every time he says, for me in my life, I have learned to take what belongs to me and leave what belongs to the public. And I think that is the type of leader I want. And I'm proud of him any day. And the fact of the matter, the only people who take loan, given the fact that I work in a bank, I wrote mortgage loan, I wrote personal loan, I wrote auto loan, I wrote so many different type of loan. Mr. C, I know the requirements to obtain a loan at a bank. The bank will only give you a loan if they believe that you have the character, you have the credit, you have the integrity, the ability to repay, because in predatory lending, one of the most important things is the borrower's ability to repay the loan. So if Mr. Boyka live on loan, I would say this to you. Common sense, Ambassador Boyka is not paying mortgage payment. He's not paying car note. Ambassador Boyka owns his house. He has lived there for more than 39 years. He's a very contempt individual, and that is the type of leader I want. But let me say something. We live here in the great United States, Mr. C. Many people who serve the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the Air Force, whether it is the reserve, those people are not millionaires. You know why? But you know why every time they show up at a grocery store, people walk to them and say, thanks for your service? Because in public policy, the best way a citizen can contribute to his country is through public service. And I'm humble and I'm grateful that I support a man who have demonstrated that throughout his life, for him, it was not about making money for himself. It was about giving back to his country. When Mr. Cummings was out making money for himself, Ambassador Boyka was in Liberia giving back to his country. And on the basis of that cannot be a crime that he has committed. And I think this is for too long why people come to public service in our country and try to steal, because you know what? We want force them to be rich. So we want them to be like McGill, who can say, we steal from government coffers so we can be rich. No, that's not what Ambassador Boyka did. So yes, Mr. Cummings worked for Coca-Cola. While Boyka was in Liberia giving back to his country, Mr. Cummings was in exile making money for himself. And I think any sound Liberian should understand. You live in America every single day where they see soldiers and say, thanks for your service. Guess what? Those soldiers make minimum wages. And we celebrate them every day. And I'm proud of Ambassador Boyka for his demonstration to public, for his contribution to public service. I would take that character any given day than a man who neglects his country, who neglects his people in his hometown. This is why Mr. Cummings can barely even win the city of Harper, because the people don't even know him there. This is why he's been referred to as a stranger, because he's a man who, during the most difficult time, when Liberian citizens were giving back to their country, he was outside making money for himself, enriching himself. I have nothing against him. I wish him all the best. And this is why I have come to say, if I live in America, given what I've worked and what I do for work, every time I pick up the phone and speak to a veteran, and I'm required by my job to tell them, thank you for your service. And how am I supposed to look at a man who served 25 years to his country, and I'm supposed to denigrate him and be condescending to him? But I'm here thanking veterans, thanking people who served 5 years in the U.S. Army, 5 years in the National Reserve. How can I be this ungrateful? Why? Many of you in America here, when they show up to your job, you say thank you for your service. But you look at Ambassador Boyka, you are condescending and denigrating to him. Is that what I should do? I'm proud to be a supporter of Ambassador Boyka, and I would do it every single day. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. Let me answer this next question that's very interesting. Someone talk about Mr. Cummings spending. I want to support this caller's point. Mr. CA, I think at some point in time, like I said, the reason why I continue to push for investigative journalism, Mr. CA, you've monitored so many opinion polls. In the 2017 election, Mr. Cummings is on record for spending some of the highest amount of money. Over 700,000 was spent on social media campaign alone. Where did Mr. Cummings end up? In 5th place. Accumulating 7-point-something% of the vote. The Unity Party that was broke, Ambassador Weah, who was corrupt, who was broke, who's old, who can't walk, who can't talk, he accumulated 28.8% of the votes. Meaning in the CPP, if you put all our votes together, we accumulated 45% of the total votes. The Unity Party, if you put the three of them together, accumulated more votes than all three of them even combined. That is to tell you. So when the callers speak of Mr. Cummings' investment and the return on his investment, we've seen Cummings build schools, we've seen Cummings open clinics. Let me tell you, Mr. C, the Liberian people understand when a man gives from his heart than a man who is embarking on these political charitable donations in return, expecting the presidency in return. Mr. Cummings lives in Georgia. There's record. Mr. Cummings for 20 plus years was never around the Liberian community. Only in late 2014, when he dreamed and he had the ambition that he could be president and he wanted to go to Liberia, and he launched this Cummings Foundation and became this great guy and now giving back to our people. Our people will not be coerced. Our people will not be fooled. Mr. Cummings, if he cared about the poor people, let me tell you, Mr. C, I've entered Mr. Cummings' office, sat with him for 45 minutes. Have you seen Mr. Cummings' apartment complex on 15th Street? A man who genuinely cared about giving back to the poor people. You know what he would have done? Mr. Cummings would have started with a low-income housing project in Maryland County for his people. Mr. Cummings would have started with low-income housing projects around the other counties. As rich as he is, to at least give back. Ambassador Weah, with the loans he's living on, he bought 1,200 acres of land in Bomi County that he's giving to Liberian farmers to go and farm. Ambassador Weah, this poor man who lives on loan, owns a 65 acres land farm in Bapolu County, even though he's living on loan. That is to tell you who he is, and this is why I am proud of him. So again, you conducted opinion polls, you guys. Focus on Liberia. You really saw Mr. Cummings is not only coming nowhere near. There ain't nobody talking about Mr. Cummings anywhere. So I will just leave it. That is the colors point he was trying to make. So at the end of the day, to bottom cooler point, let me be clear again. About the bottom cooler, we made our case. We were open-minded. But those of you who have this belief, the CPP fell under Mr. Cummings' watch because Mr. Cummings fingered and authored the documents that held us together.
Okay, folks, we will be drawing down the curtains here. Mr. Lobbo, we want to say thanks so much. Today, our plan was to give you the opportunity to speak as freely as you can. And I think you did it. And you did it the way you know best. I think you were very forceful. I don't agree with everything you said. But as a media institution, we provide the platform. We ask the questions. People give their take. The Liberian people decide. That is the big thing you say all the time. Let me say my own. Let everybody make their point. Let the Liberian people decide. They know who's telling the truth. And I will go with that today. And so with that, we will give you a minute for your closing, Mr. Lobbo.
I want to first and foremost begin by saying thanks to Focus on Liberia, Mr. C, to Mr. Dennis Job, but thank you overall today for hosting me on the Hour of Politics. I know it's been a long time since we've done one of these. I look forward to most of these engagement, Mr. C. I want to thank all of you Liberians who call in today, those of you who made recommendations, who made suggestions, those of you who agree and disagree with me. I want you to know that I wholeheartedly respect your opinions and your views that you express. I have absolutely nothing against any one of you, but love as a Liberian for you all. I want to thank you. I just want to say to my fellow Liberians who are sitting at home watching this interview today, for me, come 2023 is going to be important. Our country in 2006 was referred to by the United Nations as a failed state. The Unity Party will take Liberia, will take that failed state and turn it into a functioning democratic society where we will establish institutions. We'll begin the process of transforming the country. We'll begin the process of moving the country forward. Yes, it is true we did not build New York for you. Yes, it is true we did not build Yokohama for you. But what it is true is that we created the condition. We laid the foundation upon which New York could be built. We laid the foundation upon which Shanghai could be built. sadly for us, the bricks that we lay to build those foundations, the CDC have taken all and have sold all. Not only that, the CDC is even digging out the foundations which we established. President Weah today, he was elected on the ticket of the Coalition for Democratic Change. Sadly for us today, President Weah now is the standard bearer on the Coalition for the Development of Corruption in Liberia. That is the party he will be leading to Income 2023. Many of you are sitting at home struggling. Many of you are waking up every day not knowing where your next meal will come from. Many of you are sitting at home. Your brothers and sisters have died at hospitals simply because there were no medication. Many of you family members are struggling. What lies ahead of all of us is a future that we all wish to see. But until we wake up 2023 and make a decisive decision on who is best suited to be president today, come January, and what type of candidate we want, my brothers and sisters, we'll continue to have those big dreams. We'll continue to fantasize about the future we want to see. But that will never be a reality. I strongly believe in the Liberian people. I trust your judgment. And I'm betting on you that come 1 May 2023, do not get distracted. I want to thank media outlets that stand out for the truth. I know there are some with ulterior motives that continue to denigrate and bash the Unity Party. And for whatever reason, some people we know can't stand the Unity Party, Ambassador Kwaka. But you know exactly. And I want you to do one thing, my fellow Liberians. You saw what happened in Kenya. When Uhuru Kenyatta decided he would not back his vice president, William Ruto, the people of Kenya said, we will not be fooled. We will not be siphoned. We definitely will vote for William Ruto. When it happened with Ambassador Bwaka, you made a mistake and took a gamble. Today, you have an artist in the office of the president who is dropping singles in the midst of your extreme hardship, in the midst of extreme poverty. Liberia deserves better. We need a president who will be presidential, who understands the plight of our people. And that cannot be done without the leadership of Ambassador Joseph Nyuma Bwaka, and that is the candidate. He's my choice. Again, like he said, love Liberia, think Liberia, and let's build Liberia. Thank you, Mr. C. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you today.
George, thanks for coming. We appreciate always that you come and discuss national issue. Folks, we can't thank you enough. Please do not forget to always subscribe to our Facebook, our YouTube as well. We will appreciate that. Is the only help we want from you as we try our best to provide a platform for all Liberians to come and discuss the issues that matter to our dear country, Liberia. With that, we will close the broadcast with our usual song that says always, we are indeed all Liberians. Even though I'm critical on the Unity Party and JMB, they are all Liberians. And the reason I do that, and I don't apologize, we'll continue to do, because they say they are the big brothers. And so when you are the big brother, you wear the big brother pants, we expect a lot from you. And so some of them whine, some of them understand that, and they don't whine. And those who don't whine, let them not whine, because it comes with the territory of being a big brother. You know, so that's what it is. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the song. We are all Liberians. George, we will connect again. Bye-bye to all.
Thank you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia. 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 Liberia.